Hello, and thank you for joining me for Storytime with Mr. C. I am Mr. C, and for those of you coming back for more, welcome back. If this is your first time here, welcome to the show. If you like what you hear, please go check out my other 15 episodes. Here on Storytime with Mr. C, I will be sharing stories that I have written, or a friend or family member has written, or maybe even something you have written. If you would like for me to share one of your stories here on Storytime with Mr. C, get your story or stories ready to go, and shoot me an email at storytimewithmisterc@gmail.com. I have put that email down in the description for you. For now, I'm going to ask that you please keep stories to a maximum of 2,000 words, and please keep them family-friendly. And maybe I will read one or more of your stories in future episodes. As always, a big thank you goes out to my buddy Russ for helping me with my intro music. Russ is the bassist for a local band, Drive By High Five. Go check him out if you get the chance. And also, a big, huge thank you to Ben over at Chasing the Whimsy. If not for Ben, this whole podcast thing would not exist. So, yeah, that means it's his fault. But thank you, Ben, once again, and for always. I appreciate your support, sir. Please go check out Ben's podcast, Chasing the Whimsy. You can find the link to said podcast down in the description. Please go check it out. Show Ben some love. How is October treating you so far, folks? It is finally cooling down here in the desert, which is awesome, and I feel like I'm actually making some progress on all the costume stuffs I have laying around, so that also is pretty fantastic. Less than 2 weeks before the big day, folks, so get your stuff ready to go. Last week, I treated you to the second half of Wild Within, which was spooky story number 3. I hope you enjoyed. And for this, our 16th episode, I will be sharing our next spooky story, which I just finished writing earlier this morning. I'm hoping I can crank out one more spooky story to finish out the month of October, and then we will move on to the stories of the matriarchs in November. So please make sure you come on back for all that good stuff. All right, folks, enough babbling. Here we go with episode 16. Stand by.
Storytime with Mr. C.
Storytime.
Thank you once again for joining me for this episode of Storytime with Mr. C. This is spooky story number 4. I call this one Something Old. Parker strolled along the small stretch of avenue between Alameda and Pennington. It had been ages since he had been down here, and it seemed almost like an entirely different world now. Many of the shops were vacant, some boarded up. Graffiti splashed across windows and walls, and garbage clogged the curbs. The deli was an empty husk, and the bookstore was long gone, but the antique store was new. Something Old. That was the name on the sign. It certainly looked like it had been there for decades, but Parker didn't remember it at all. He was certain it hadn't even been here as recent as 3 years ago. The fine layers of dust on the rich wooden furniture visible through the large bay window made him second-guess his memory, though that had been happening a lot lately. Splotchy remembrances, smears of lost time. It was getting harder to keep things straight in his head. He assumed it was just the lingering fog of the long depression, still gnawing at the edges of his mind. He didn't remember stopping, but he found himself standing at the window, staring through the glass at a mirror with a dark carved frame. It was about the size of a coffee table book, surrounded with intricate details brought to life by the hands of a master woodworker. Hands that were surely long dead now, rotted and returned to the earth. The eyes that looked back at him seemed full of something, hollow and dark. Movement flickered at the corner of his vision. He turned his head slowly. Another set of eyes stared back, large, soft, almost glowing with life. He refocused and realized he was looking at a young woman, beautiful, still. He whipped his head away, embarrassed, then turned back to find her still watching. A nervous smile crept across her face, and before he realized it, Parker found that he was returning the smile. Damn, he couldn't remember the last time he had genuinely smiled. It felt foreign, but good. The young woman raised her right hand and gave a little wave. Parker returned the gesture, and something fluttered in his chest. And then she was gone. He scanned what he could see of the rows of ancient furniture and knickknacks, but the woman had disappeared. Maybe she had never been there at all. The smile slipped from his face as he turned to go, but the faint jingle of bells made him stop. The young woman stood in the open doorway of something old, her nervous smile still on her pale face. She was surprisingly tall, almost his height, and appeared very thin and fragile, with dark, slightly unkempt hair framing angular features. Her eyes were enormous, brown and shining. She wore a long coat, scarf, and gloves, though the air wasn't very cold at all today. "Hi," she said, offering another small wave. "Hi," Parker replied, his voice rough. The flutter in his chest returned, wings against bone. "I was just closing up," she said. "I saw you staring." "I'm sorry," he stammered. "I didn't mean to." "Oh, no, it's fine," she smiled wider. "I love that mirror, too. Late 17th century, Tuscany. Yours for only $3,500. She giggled, a sound that made the inside of Parker's ears itch, but in a good way. "Wow," he said. "I wish I had that kind of money, but I'm just a teacher, and you know what they say." "Yeah, you're probably broke," she said quickly, then winced. "Sorry, that came out wrong." No, it's all right," Parker chuckled. "You're not wrong. I think I've got maybe $4 to my name right now." She laughed softly. She was odd in all the right ways, and somehow sad, broken, lonely, almost like she didn't quite belong in this world. She would be perfect, Parker thought. "I guess I'll have to spring for coffee then," she said, with what seemed like real effort. "What?" "I mean, if that's something you might want to do," she said. "With me. Or tea, if that's more your thing." "Yes," Parker blurted, trying not to sound too eager. "That would be lovely. I like tea. Hot or iced tea. Tea is good." She grinned. "Tea, then. Are you busy right now?" "Well, I did have an appointment with that handsome oil stain over there, but I think I can reschedule." Her laugh was light, musical. "I know just the place," she said. "Follow me." Over the next few weeks, they were nearly inseparable. Her name was Catherine. She didn't own something old, but behaved as if she did. The owner was always away, and she loved tending the shop. She preferred the quiet comfort of the antiques, and didn't really like people. She stayed indoors, shunning sunlight. Her wardrobe was a patchwork of different centuries, flowing earth-toned fabrics, scarves, and lace, always covered, always layered. She was a wonderful listener, and Parker found it easy to talk to her, at least about most things. He told her about quitting his beloved teaching job and about losing faith in himself. About the students who had grown cruel and the administrators who bent to the parents' whims. "I completely understand," Catherine said, nursing her mug of Earl Grey with extra honey. "And they wonder why I hate people." "Hate's a strong word," Parker said, half smiling. "It's the right one, though," she replied. "As individuals, they can be fine. Like you. I like you." "Thank you," Parker said. "But people as a whole," she shook her head. "Monsters. Judgmental, cruel, wearing their masks, lying through their teeth." "We all wear masks sometimes," Parker said. Her gaze fixed on him. "Do you?" "Sometimes," he admitted. "When I have to, but that's part of why I had to quit. The mask was becoming too comfortable. It was starting to feel like my real face." She smiled faintly. Are you wearing one now? No, he said, unblinking. Not with you. Never with you. Good answer, she smiled faintly. Now, when do I get that invitation you keep promising? Parker squirmed in his seat and dropped his eyes. Soon, I promise. You keep saying that. I don't want you to think any less of me. The apartment, it's small, messy, and you're so put together, glamorous. I'm, well, human, she teased. Come on, invite me. It'll be fun. Parker sighed. All right, just give me a day to clean, maybe get some furniture. I don't care about furniture, she said. I work with furniture all day. I will be at your apartment tomorrow. Tomorrow? He asked, realizing just how much work was ahead of him. Tomorrow. Parker's apartment sat above an old print shop, its hallways filled with the smells of ink and dust. He spent the next day cleaning like a man possessed, sweeping, scrubbing, hauling bags to the dumpster. The winter light through the blinds made everything feel sharp and unreal as he worked. He dreaded the idea of allowing anyone to see where he lived, but Catherine was special, and he was willing to make room for her in his space. By dusk, the air grew brittle with cold. Catherine arrived, punctual as always, a picnic basket hanging from her arm. Cozy, she said as she stepped inside. Smells like tea and ghosts. Parker laughed nervously. I do my best. They sat on the floor and ate. I like it, she said. It feels like you. Simple. Thank you? No, that's a good thing. It's a compliment. Well, I told you I don't have any furniture. And I told you that I don't care. Look at us. We are doing just fine. We don't need tables or chairs to enjoy each other's company. Parker smiled. I guess not. So, how long have you lived here? Catherine asked, glancing at the unopened boxes shoved into the corner. I don't know, Parker said. Maybe 18 months, give or take. Her eyes shifted to a closed door behind him. And what's behind door number 2? Oh, that's where I sleep. It's also where I shoved all the crap I couldn't get cleaned up before you got here. Where you keep all the bodies, she teased. Yeah, something like that, Parker replied. I need at least another day to clean up if you ever want to see in there. Yeah, we'll talk about it, Catherine said, a smile spreading across her face. That night, after Catherine left, Parker dreamed of wings. Dry, papery wings whispering across plaster. He woke to find his bedroom window open, curtains fluttering. On the sill, something small and dark. The half-crushed body of a moth. He flushed it down the toilet and shut the window tight, but as he drifted back to sleep, he could still hear the faint scrape of wings in the walls. The next morning, he texted her. Want to see behind the door? My place, 7 o'clock. No reply. By evening, nothing. When 7 o'clock came and went, the depression hit like a wave. He drank, he slept, he dreamed of her, mouth opening wider than it should, whispering through dust. Days passed. Parker lost track of time. His dreams were filled with nightmares, and he began to lose time again. He texted and called Catherine relentlessly, but there was never any reply. He went to the store, but it was locked. Dust thick on the furniture, no signs of life inside. He pressed his face to the window, and something moved. A shadow gliding between aisles. He knocked. Something knocked back. And then he was home again, without remembering the walk. His apartment was empty, everything gone, even the boxes. He stared at his hands, blood under his nails. His chest ached. From the kitchen came a faint clicking. He turned on the light. Nothing. But he could hear it, a steady hum rising through the floorboards like wings beating somewhere far below. He woke the next evening curled in the doorway of the antique shop. He stared through the window for an unknown period of time and eventually wandered home in a haze. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He frantically tore it free and stared hopefully at the screen. An email from an unknown address. Subject, thinking of you. Attachment, a grainy photo of him asleep on the floor of his empty apartment. Another buzz. Subject, watching you. Attachment, a photo of his bedroom door. Another. Subject, you were opening them like suitcases. Attachment, his bed, sheets twisted, a dark smear across the pillow. Another. Subject, waiting for you. Attachment, a blurry figure beside the bed, an open hat box in its hands. Parker ran, picking up speed as his phone buzzed again and again. He burst into his apartment and flipped the light switch. Nothing. He felt along the wall until he reached the bedroom door and threw it open. He fumbled with his phone and turned on the flashlight, shined the beam across the room, but it was as he left it. Nothing out of place. "Catherine!" he shouted. "Where are you?" Movement behind him. He spun around, too slow, a breath against his neck. Something smacked the phone from his hand, sending it clattering across the floor.
"You stared at me through the glass,"
a voice said from the dark.
"You called to me, and you lied."
Parker looked up. Catherine was no longer Catherine. She clung to the corner of the ceiling, folded into the shadows. Limbs too long, joints bent the wrong way, her mouth barely moved when she spoke.
"I told you,"
she hissed.
"I hate people and their masks of deceit."
She crept closer, descending, and she was all wrong. Skin translucent, veined like paper, her eyes vast, faceted, catching light in 100 shards.
"You were my light in the darkness,"
she said.
"I was drawn to you."
Wings unfolded from her back, gray, dry, dragging across the plaster ceiling. Her mouth tore wider, revealing not teeth, but rows of tiny hooked spines.
"But you are worse than all of them,"
she spat.
"Full of lies."
"Please," Parker gasped. "I never lied to you. I was going to show you everything."
"I already know,"
she whispered, drawing closer.
"All that you are, all that you have done, and still you kept your shape."
"What are you?" he choked.
"Something old,"
she hissed, crawling down the wall, head tilted at an inhuman angle.
"You fed me stories, you fed me lies. Now I'll take what's underneath."
She pressed her face to his, and her mouth unhinged, soft wings closing around his head, smothering him in darkness. Adrian wandered through downtown streets as she scrolled through her social feed. The story was everywhere. A serial killer discovered right here in the old Pueblo. The landlord contacted the police after a foul odor began seeping through the floorboards. The apartment was empty, except for the bedroom. Inside, sights that would shame Dahmer himself. Evidence of at least a dozen victims. Tools, photos, a scrapbook made from human skin, and a jawbone resting on the nightstand. A stack of hat boxes filled with hair, fabric, teeth, and bone. And the strangest detail, his bed, covered in thousands of dead moths. He had been a high school English teacher. The media called him the Mothman. He was never found. "Holy crap," Adrian muttered. "Glad I never met the guy." She looked up from her phone. She was standing in front of a shop window. Something old. A young woman was inside, framed by the glass. She turned, smiled nervously, and offered a small wave. Adrian smiled and waved back, and something fluttered in her chest. Once again, thank you so much for joining me for this 16th episode of Storytime with Mr. C. That was my latest spooky story, Something Old. So, how was it? Drop me a comment or an email, folks. Let me know what you thought. Next week, on October 26th, I will share our next spooky story, which will be our final spooky story for at least a while. After that, on November 2nd, we will start with the stories of the matriarchs. These will be stories written by my mom, her mom, and even her mom's mom. In the meantime, send me some new material. Tell me what's happening in your world for Halloween, and go check out Ben's podcast, Chasing the Whimsy. Thanks again for hanging out and listening to my story. I hope you come on back for the next one. Until then, take care. And again, during this, our finest of holidays, the Halloween season, please be safe.